You went viral when you broke into tears telling Lil Durk not to retaliate for King Von's death. You know, it was so emotional because Durk, he said, I need you to come here, right? He said, we could do it in Miami, whatever, but I need you to come here.
There were 100 of them, ready to ride. But the truth is, they didn't even know why they were there. They just showed up, thinking they were about to hear something important. It wasn't even about that. Dee said, we're doing this in the hood. I need you to talk to Boom Boom. So I told him, I got you. When I got there, he looked at me and said, listen, I need you to holler at him. As I started talking, I realized something, because I was also listening to a few of them on the side. I understood that in the ghetto, nothing holds more power than revenge. Revenge is king. It's the closest thing to God because, for a black man, ego is everything. Ego has taken more black men than any disease ever could. It's the ego that says, you hit me in front of people. Now I can't let that slide. You have to pay for this. A lot of us grew up without structure, without fathers, raised by our mothers, and left to navigate life fueled by raw emotion. So when I stood there speaking to them, it was emotional for me. I told them, the man who killed my brother, I forgave him. Does that make me weak? Does that make me a coward? I don't know. But what I do know is that forgiving him meant choosing to live for my brother. In a world where we glorify dying for the ones we love, I chose to live for them instead, for my brother's kids, for my mama, for my grandmother. Nobody talks about that. But I'll be real. I know I'm not built to die right now because there's still work for me to do. I have responsibilities. My older brother is gone, and that means I have to step up. I have to be a man. And being a man means thinking with wisdom, not reacting with pride. It means making choices that won't leave my loved ones suffering because of my ego.
My ego wasn't built like that. I wasn't that strong to have that type of ego. I wasn't cut like that. You mentioned that you had to forgive your brother's killer. How long did it take you? Because they say forgiveness is not for the
His
person.
mamashe was tearing down the community over ego. But my ego wasn't built like that. I wasn't that strong to carry that kind of weight. I wasn't cut like that. You mentioned having to forgive your brother's killer. How long did it take? Because they say forgiveness isn't for the person who did the wrong, it's for the one who was wronged. Maya came to see me. My niece, she visited me a week after her dad was killed. That was the first time I ever met her. She was maybe 4 or 5 years old, but her spirit was so big, so full of life. When she came into the visiting room, she ran around, full of energy, then jumped onto my lap. She looked at me and asked, when you come home, you're not going back, right? You're not leaving again, are you? I told her, no, I'm not coming back. She started telling me all the places she wanted me to take her, all the things she wanted to do. My nephew was there too, and as I talked to him, it hit me. Someone was finally counting on me. Someone was looking up to me in a way no one ever had before. You see, my little brother and I never really had time together. I was always in the penitentiary. But now, this little girl was looking at me like I was her world. She was placing all this trust, all this faith in me, and I already knew I had made up my mind. Let me tell you something, Shannon. I'm just not built like that. I'm not designed to take another black man's life. I'm not tough like that. I'm not ruthless like that. I'm not heartless like that. That's not who I am. And if I ever became that person, that would be my worst fear, the worst version of myself. I don't care how low life gets. That's a line I'm not willing to cross.
Why would you did? Because I don't know. Listen, I don't know what happened that night. Why?
I told myself I ain't built like that. I can't go out like that. Ruth is, I don't even know what really happened that night or why it happened. All I know is my brother got shot. He ran to my grandma's house, made it to the door, and collapsed in her arms. That's all I know. And I ain't built to see another mother or grandmother go through that pain. I ain't cut like that, Shannon. I'm not designed like that. Just because someone hurt me, why would I want to hurt their grandma? For what? If I do that, when does it end? It's a never-ending cycle. You said that by not retaliating, it gave me the freedom to be with my family. And that's real. When I got out of jail, I didn't have much, but I had everything. Because I remembered something: we didn't have much growing up in the ghetto, but we had each other. And that meant we had everything. I had promised my niece I would take her to all these places, not even knowing where they were. I was just in jail, telling her, yeah, I got you, I'll take you. So when I got out, I realized I actually had to make it happen. I remember walking into Five Below, thinking everything was $5. Next thing I know, I'm spending $50. I'm like, hold up, I thought everything was $5. But my niece was picking things out, and I couldn't say no. I just wanted to show up. Not just financially, I wanted to be there mentally, emotionally. That was the whole point. It was never about money. It was about living for them, about showing up for them, about letting them see me. Being an example for my niece and nephew, proving to my grandma that I could be something. She always told me, you're special. And for the longest time, I didn't believe her. I thought, special? What do you mean? How could I be special? I grew up in the ghetto. I didn't know you could be special coming from the ghetto. Then Durk said, this man really dropping tears for this. Do I think he heard me? Do I think he really understood what I was saying? It's not just about whether they listened. A lot of people listen just to respond, but did they really listen to understand? I talked to a lot of them afterward. Some of them called me later. But it's deeper than just hearing what I had to say. It's about conditioning. It's about the environment. You can hear every word I speak, but if your reality hasn't changed, what can you really do with it? That's the struggle. These young brothersmen, they do hear. A lot of them are smart, but their environment doesn't allow them to grow. If you're stuck in a place where every day is a fight for survival, where you know there are people just down the block who want to kill you, what choice do you have? You have to protect yourself. And when you live like that, retaliation isn't just an option, it feels like a necessity. We tell these kids so much, but what do we actually give them? All we do is criticize young black men at every turn. Society breaks them down, labels them, blames them. But where are the resources? How many people profit from tearing them down without ever offering a solution? There are massive media platforms that do nothing but highlight the worst in the black community. They talk down on us, point fingers, but they don't provide funding. They don't create opportunities. They don't help rebuild what's broken. So I can sit here and tell these young brothers to think differently, to move differently, but at the end of the day, they still have to survive. They still have to feed their kids. And if the only way they know how to do that is through what they've been taught, what choice do they have? If we really want to help, it takes more than just words. It takes time, energy, and resources to deprogram the mindset they've been conditioned into and reprogram them for something better. Because the truth is, the dehumanization of black people by black people that was programmed into us a long time ago. It starts early. A little boy falls off the swing and starts crying. What do we tell him? Man up, stop crying, be tough. From a young age, we're taught to suppress emotion, to hide pain, to ignore vulnerability. But that's not strength, that's not toughness. This programming runs deep, and breaking out of it, that takes time. It takes intentional effort. So how does someone outgrow the environment they were born into if they can't physically leave it? How do you grow beyond your circumstances when they're all you've ever known? Because at the end of the day, a fish will only grow as big as its tank allows. A tree will only flourish if the soil and conditions let it. And if we don't change the environment, how do we expect these young men to change?